Every human being carries within them a silent battle. It is not always visible to the outside world, but it shapes our decisions, our emotions, and the path of our life. One of the strongest forces that keeps us imprisoned are our cravings. The endless desires that whisper to us, telling us that we need more, that we are not complete yet, that satisfaction lies somewhere outside of us. But the truth is, the more we feed these cravings, the more they grow and the more they control us. To kill a craving does not mean to destroy life's joys. It means to reclaim control over yourself, to no longer be a slave to impulses. True freedom begins the moment you realize that happiness is not hidden in the next taste, the next purchase, or the next distraction. Freedom begins when you master yourself. Understanding cravings is to recognize how deeply they are connected to our own sense of incompleteness. When a craving arises, whether for food, attention, material possessions, or even validation, it is not simply about the object of desire. It is about a void that we feel inside, a space we believe can only be filled by reaching outside of ourselves. This is why cravings are powerful. They disguise themselves as needs, yet at their core they are illusions. They promise fulfillment, but the moment we grasp them, they dissolve, leaving us chasing another and another, never satisfied. This endless cycle is what keeps people trapped, not because the object of desire is strong, but because our mind has forgotten what it feels like to be still, to be content with what already exists in this moment. Think about how cravings operate in daily life. A person feels stressed, and instantly the craving for comfort food arises. Another feels lonely, and the craving for constant digital connection takes over. Someone feels insecure, and the craving for praise or material display appears. In each case, the craving is not solving the real issue. The food does not heal stress. The constant scrolling does not remove loneliness. The praise does not build true confidence. Instead, it only creates a momentary illusion of relief, which fades quickly, leaving behind the same emptiness, now even stronger because it has been masked and avoided. To see through this pattern is the first step toward freedom. When you observe a craving carefully, you begin to notice its nature. It comes like a wave, it rises, it reaches a peak, and eventually it falls away. If you attach yourself to it, you are dragged into the wave and pulled deeper. But if you watch it without acting, you realize it has no permanent hold over you. The mind creates the story that, I must act, I must satisfy this hunger. Yet the truth is that no craving can last forever. It is like smoke in the wind. Once you recognize this, the craving loses its power. The energy it once consumed is returned to you, and that energy can be directed towards something that truly nourishes your body, your mind, and your spirit. Cravings thrive on unconsciousness. They demand quick action before awareness can rise. This is why so many people fall victim to them, because they react instantly without space to reflect. The practice of awareness is like placing a light in a dark room. Suddenly, you can see the craving for what it is, not a command, but merely a suggestion. Not an order, but just a thought. Once you separate yourself from it, you discover that you are not your cravings. You are the one observing them. You are the one who decides whether to act or not. This recognition is one of the most empowering realizations a human being can have, because it returns the power of choice back into your own hands. The more a craving is fed, the stronger its grip becomes. It is like watering a weed. At first, the plant is small and harmless, but if nourished again and again, it grows tall and covers the whole garden. Soon it takes away space, sunlight, and life from everything else. But if you stop watering it, the weed withers. It loses its strength naturally. This is the same with cravings. They survive only because we constantly give them energy and attention. The moment we stop feeding them, their strength begins to fade. Slowly, the weeds of desire are replaced by the flowers of discipline, clarity, and peace. Freedom is not in indulging every impulse, but in mastering the space between impulse and action. When you are no longer controlled by what you crave, you experience a silence inside, a kind of inner stillness that is rare in the modern world. In this silence, life is no longer dictated by external temptations. It is directed by your inner compass, by your values, and by the wisdom that arises when the mind is calm. And in this calmness, you begin to discover that the satisfaction you once searched for outside has always been within you. Lies in realizing that the battle with cravings is not fought on the outside, but within the mind. Many people believe that if they can just remove the objects of temptation from their environment, they will be free. They lock away the sweets, delete the social media apps, or distance themselves from situations that trigger desire. While these steps can help in the beginning, they do not address the root of the problem. The root is not the object. It is the attachment the mind has created. If you close yourself in a room with nothing around you, the cravings will still appear in your thoughts. This is why lasting freedom comes not from running away, but from transforming the way you relate to these desires within yourself. Cravings are like shadows that follow you everywhere. You cannot outrun them, but you can turn toward the light and see that the shadow itself has no substance. It is only a projection. The mind projects happiness onto external things, believing that when you achieve them, when you consume them, when you own them, you will finally feel complete. Yet as soon as one craving is satisfied, another emerges. The cycle never ends, because the source of the craving is not the object, but the restless mind itself. The more you chase, the more restless it becomes. It is like pouring water into a pot with no bottom. No matter how much you add, it will never be full. The realization of this truth is what starts the process of breaking free. To face cravings, you must learn the art of stillness. When a craving arises, the instinct is to act immediately, to grab, to consume, to satisfy. But if you pause even for a few breaths, you create space between the desire and your response. In that space lies your strength. The craving may scream in your head, your body may feel restless, but if you remain still, you begin to see its temporary nature. You observe it rising and falling, and you realize that you do not have to obey it. Stillness is not weakness, it is mastery. It is the ability to remain unmoved while the storm of desire passes by. Another dimension of this practice is understanding the difference between need and craving. A need is something essential for survival and growth. It nourishes you and keeps you balanced. Food, rest, water, healthy connection, these are needs. A craving, however, is excess. It pushes you beyond what you require and into what only feeds the restless mind. When you train yourself to distinguish the two, life becomes clearer. You no longer confuse indulgence with nourishment. You start to see how often the mind asks for things it does not truly need, and you discover that saying no is not a loss but a gain. It is gaining back your energy, your focus, and your freedom. Cravings are strongest when you are unaware of the deeper emptiness inside. Many people try to escape feelings of boredom, sadness, or anxiety by chasing after external pleasures. But those feelings do not vanish by adding more layers of distraction. They only become buried, waiting to surface again. When you face them directly, however, you learn that these emotions can be lived through without needing to escape. You discover that what you thought you needed to suppress or avoid was not as frightening as it seemed. By embracing discomfort instead of running from it, cravings lose their purpose. They no longer act as escape routes because you no longer need to escape. In training the mind, it helps to redirect its energy. Instead of giving attention to the craving, give attention to something uplifting. This could be movement, breath, creativity, or service to others. The mind cannot focus on two things at once with equal intensity. If you fill it with purposeful action, there is no room left for destructive desires to dominate. Over time, this redirection becomes natural. The moment a craving arises, instead of fighting it, you channel that energy towards something meaningful, and what once felt like a chain around your neck becomes fuel for your growth. The truth is, cravings will always try to visit you. They are part of being human. But freedom is not about eliminating them forever. Freedom is about seeing them for what they are and choosing not to let them govern your life. Each time you resist, each time you choose stillness, each time you channel that restless energy into something greater, you are training your mind to become stronger. The chains become lighter, the grip becomes weaker, and slowly the balance shifts. What once controlled you becomes something you can observe calmly, without fear, without urgency, and without surrender. Killing cravings and becoming free again is to understand the role of discipline and how it transforms the mind over time. Many people misunderstand discipline, believing it to be a restriction, a kind of prison that takes away enjoyment from life. In truth, discipline is the very opposite. It is the gateway to freedom. Without discipline, you are at the mercy of every impulse that arises. You are controlled by habits you did not consciously choose, by desires that appear without your permission, by cravings that dictate your actions. This is not freedom, it is slavery. Discipline is the tool that breaks these invisible chains. It is not about punishing yourself, but about reclaiming authority over your choices. When you begin to practice discipline, the first thing you notice is resistance. The mind does not want to give up its comforts, its easy escapes, its familiar patterns. It will make excuses. It will bargain with you. It will tell you that you can indulge just one more time. This is where the training begins. Each time you choose discipline over desire, you are building a new pattern in the mind. At first it feels heavy, like lifting weights for the first time. The muscles of self-control are weak, but with each repetition they grow stronger. Eventually, what was once difficult becomes natural. The craving that once seemed overwhelming becomes a faint whisper that no longer has power over you. Discipline is built in small actions repeated consistently. You do not need to fight every battle at once. If you attempt to destroy all cravings in a single day, you will exhaust yourself. Instead, begin with one. Choose one craving, one habit that no longer serves you, and bring your full awareness to it. Each time it arises, pause, breathe, and choose not to obey. At first, you may succeed only occasionally. But even a single victory is powerful because it plants the seed of possibility in your mind. It shows you that you are not as powerless as you once believed. With each small victory, confidence grows, and with confidence, discipline becomes easier to maintain. Another aspect of discipline is creating structure in your life. A mind without structure is easily hijacked by cravings, because there is too much empty space waiting to be filled. Structure does not mean rigidity, but it means having clear intentions for how you use your time, your energy, and your focus. When you wake up with purpose, when you direct your attention to meaningful activities, the mind is less vulnerable to distraction. Cravings thrive in idleness, in boredom, in lack of direction. But when your life is guided by a rhythm, by practices that strengthen your body and mind, cravings lose the environment they need to grow. Discipline also teaches patience. Cravings demand instant gratification. They tell you that happiness lies in satisfying them now, immediately, without waiting. Discipline teaches you to delay gratification, to trust in long-term rewards rather than temporary relief. This shift in perspective is profound. It changes the way you relate to life itself. Instead of being trapped in the constant pursuit of quick fixes, you begin to appreciate the deeper satisfaction that comes from growth, from mastery, from steady progress. Patience transforms your relationship with time. You no longer need everything now, because you understand that true fulfillment unfolds slowly, like the blooming of a flower. The practice of discipline is also closely tied to self-respect. Each time you resist a craving, you are proving to yourself that you are capable of control. You are demonstrating that you can rise above impulses and make choices that align with your higher self. This builds trust in yourself. And this trust is one of the most valuable things you can possess, because when you trust yourself, you no longer doubt your ability to face challenges. You no longer see yourself as weak or easily broken. You see yourself as resilient, as someone who can endure discomfort and remain steady. This self-respect is a shield against cravings, because the more you value yourself, the less willing you are to betray yourself by giving in to destructive desires. Discipline is not about denying joy, but about discovering a deeper kind of joy that is not dependent on external circumstances. It is the joy of clarity, of knowing that you are not being manipulated by your own impulses. It is the joy of waking up in the morning and feeling proud of the choices you made yesterday. It is the joy of living in alignment with your values, rather than being pulled in every direction by fleeting desires. This joy cannot be found in cravings, because cravings are never satisfied. It can only be found in freedom, and freedom is born through discipline. Cultivate awareness of impermanence, because all cravings arise from the illusion that something outside of us can give lasting satisfaction. When the mind believes that pleasure is permanent, it clings, it desires, it chases without pause, yet every experience shows us the opposite. The taste of food lasts only for moments. The thrill of purchase fades quickly. The praise of others echoes for a short while and then disappears. What remains afterward is the same emptiness, waiting for the next object of desire. The mind, however, refuses to see this pattern because it does not want to accept impermanence. It wants security. It wants stability. It wants happiness that will not end. This refusal to accept reality is what keeps cravings alive. To recognize impermanence is to see through the illusion and weaken the craving at its root. When you look deeply at life, everything is in constant change. The body changes every day. The mind shifts with every experience. Emotions rise and fall like waves in the ocean. Nothing remains fixed. Not even the desires that appear so strong in one moment. When you begin to observe this truth, cravings lose their power. You realize that to cling to something temporary is to invite suffering. You cannot hold on to a wave and expect it not to break. You cannot hold on to a flower and expect it not to wither. In the same way, you cannot hold on to a craving and expect it to give you lasting peace. This understanding is not about denying the beauty of experiences. It is about appreciating them without attachment. When you eat a meal, you can enjoy the taste fully, but you also know it will not last. When someone praises you, you can accept it with gratitude. But you do not let your identity depend on it. When you achieve a goal, you can celebrate, but you also know that life will continue to move forward. With this perspective, you no longer chase desperately after cravings, because you see clearly that they cannot provide permanent fulfillment. You learn to enjoy without clinging, to participate in life without becoming enslaved by desire. Cravings grow strongest when you forget impermanence. The mind says, if I get this, I will finally be happy. But this belief is never true. Even when the craving is satisfied, the happiness is temporary, and soon the mind demands more. This endless pursuit is like running on a treadmill. No matter how far you go, you remain in the same place, exhausted and unsatisfied. When you bring awareness to impermanence, the treadmill stops. You step off and realize that the happiness you sought outside was never meant to be permanent. True contentment comes from accepting change, not from resisting it. Impermanence also teaches humility. It reminds you that nothing belongs to you forever, not possessions, not relationships, not even your own body. This realization can feel uncomfortable at first, but it is also liberating. It frees you from clinging too tightly. It allows you to experience life with openness rather than fear. You stop chasing after cravings as if they are the only source of meaning, because you see that meaning is found not in holding but in letting go. The practice of meditating on impermanence is powerful. When a craving arises, ask yourself, how long will this satisfaction last? Will it still matter tomorrow, in a week, in a year? Most cravings lose their intensity when you project them into the future, because you see how small they are in the larger flow of time. This perspective widens your vision. Instead of being trapped in the urgency of the moment, you step back and view the craving as just one small wave in the ocean of your life. You see its rise, its peak, and its inevitable fall, and suddenly it no longer controls you. The recognition of impermanence also cultivates gratitude. Because nothing lasts, every moment becomes precious. You no longer take experiences for granted, but you also no longer crave them endlessly. You appreciate them for what they are in the moment they appear, and then you let them go. Gratitude turns cravings into opportunities for mindfulness. Instead of feeling restless, you feel present. Instead of being enslaved by desire, you are enriched by awareness. Living with awareness of impermanence brings balance. You no longer swing between extremes of indulgence and deprivation. You no longer chase after cravings blindly, nor do you suppress them with force. Instead, you acknowledge them, understand their temporary nature, and let them pass. This balanced approach is what creates true freedom, because it is not built on resisting life, but on flowing with it. When we look deeply into life, we realize that the greatest prison is not built from walls or iron bars, but from the cravings that govern our minds. They whisper promises, they tempt us with illusions, and they keep us chained to an endless cycle of desire and dissatisfaction. Yet within each of us lies the key to freedom. It is found in awareness, in discipline, in patience, in the understanding of impermanence, and in the courage to reclaim authority over our own choices. To kill cravings is not to kill joy. It is to rediscover joy in its purest form. Joy that is not dependent on external circumstances, joy that is not fleeting, joy that cannot be taken away. It is the joy of mastery over yourself, the peace of no longer being enslaved by impulses, the strength of standing firm in the face of temptation. This is the path of freedom. Freedom is not something you will find in the future, once every craving disappears. Freedom is here, in this moment, in every choice you make. Each time you choose awareness over impulse, discipline over desire, stillness over restlessness, you are already free. And the more you practice, the more this freedom becomes your natural state. So do not fear cravings, and do not be defeated by them. See them as teachers. They reveal where your mind still clings, where your strength is still untrained, where your awareness is still clouded. Use them as opportunities to grow. Because the more you kill cravings, the lighter you become, the clearer your mind becomes, and the closer you step toward living fully, without chains, without illusions, without limits.